The game just dropped the bombshell that got the whole industry talking, bankruptcy. After years of ducking that $7 million judgment, a judge is now demanding he cough up every last cent, from his Calabasas mansion to his music royalties. In the whispers online, they're saying the game's empire is crumbling faster than a mixtape leak. But is this really the end for one of the West Coast's loudest voices? Or is he just pulling a 50 Cent style move to reset the board? Tonight, we're breaking down the receipts, the gossip, and the fallout. The rap world loves drama, but this one hits different. The Game, the same dude who once bragged about his millions and his mansion lifestyle, is now the headline for bankruptcy rumors. Court documents show he's been under relentless pressure ever since that $7 million judgment from Priscilla Rainey landed on his back. And now, the courts are turning up the heat, forcing him to sell off his Calabasas mansion, squeezing his royalties, and making sure every dime he earns has a target on it. Fans are calling it game over, pointing out that this is what happens when you dodge judgments for too long. But the bigger twist, the Game himself has been dropping hints that he's strapped, with social media posts that sound less like flexes and more like damage control. Whispers say he might file bankruptcy as a last-ditch move to protect what's left of his empire. But here's the thing, if he really does file, that means everything he owns goes under the microscope. From his homes to his jewelry to his future tour money, nothing would be off limits. It's the kind of downfall that not only humbles a rapper's pockets, but also puts their entire reputation on blast. And that's what makes this story more than just a legal update. It's a cultural moment. Because if the Game is broke for real, it's a reminder that no matter how big you get, the industry and the courts can flip it upside down overnight. But before we dig into the rumors of bankruptcy, we need to understand how this all started, how one lawsuit snowballed into a financial nightmare that's now threatening to wipe him out. To really get why the Game is in this mess, you got to go back to the lawsuit that started it all. Back in 2015, Priscilla Rainey, one of the women on his reality show She Got Game, filed a sexual assault lawsuit against him. The Game never showed up to fight it in court, so the judge hit him with a default judgment. And not just a small one, over $7 million in damages. That judgment has been hanging over his head ever since, growing interest and chasing him like a shadow he can't shake. Fast forward a few years, and Rainey wasn't just waiting for a check, she went after everything. Courts gave her the power to seize royalties from the Game's music, hid his touring money, and even slap liens on his property. Most recently, a judge gave the green light to sell his Calabasas mansion to help cover what he owes. Imagine going from rap's big house in the hills flex to watching the court list your home like it's a foreclosure special. That's the hammer coming down. And it didn't stop there. Reports say Rainey's team has been tracking every possible revenue stream the Game touches, companies, trademarks, even LLCs he allegedly used to shuffle money around. The judge basically said, nope, pay every cent. It's not just about a paycheck anymore, it's about stripping down assets until that judgment is satisfied. For fans, it's wild to see. This is the same rapper who once flaunted red Ferraris and iced out chains, now being dragged through courtrooms like a regular dude who missed rent. It's humbling, but it's also brutal, because the courts don't care about your rap sheet, they care about their receipts. And here's the cliffhanger. With the walls closing in, the gossip mill started churning out the word bankruptcy. But is this really a man with empty pockets? Or is the Game pulling a strategic move to dodge Rainey's collection efforts? That's where the rumors start to get juicy. Now here's where the story flips from courtroom facts to straight up gossip fuel, the bankruptcy rumors. Word on the blogs is that the Game is preparing to pull a 50 Cent style move, filing for bankruptcy not because he's flat broke, but because it's the only way to protect what's left of his empire. Think about it. Bankruptcy doesn't always mean you've got $0 in the bank. Sometimes it's a legal play to restructure debts, stall creditors, and buy time. In the Game's case, it could be the only move left to keep Rainey from draining every penny he earns for the next decade. But of course, the streets got their own take. Some fans are convinced the game has money stashed in shell companies, pointing to past claims that he ran his business through dummy corporations just to avoid this judgment. Others believe he's truly down bad, with no hit records in years, tours slowing down, and lawsuits eating away at whatever royalties still trickle in. Either way, the bankrupt rapper label is sticking hard, and you know how unforgiving the internet is. Twitter's been clowning him heavy with posts like, "The only thing in the game's bank account is his PSN login," and memes showing him holding a cardboard sign that says, "Will rap for royalties." But there are also defenders who say this is just another example of the system crushing a black artist while corporate labels run off with billions. They point to 50 Cent's 2015 bankruptcy as proof. He filed, everyone laughed, but he came back bigger with TV deals, liquor brands, and more money than ever. So which side is it? Is the game actually bankrupt, or is he just moving the chess pieces so Rainey can't collect as easily? That's the speculation driving this narrative, and either way, it's tarnishing his brand. Because in hip-hop, nothing kills your credibility faster than looking broke. But to really understand the sting of these rumors, you gotta rewind the tape, back to when the game was on top, charting platinum hits and flexing millions. That rise makes the current fall hit even harder. Man, if you grew up in the 2000s, you remember when the game was untouchable. Fresh out of Compton, co-signed by Dr. Dre, rolling with 50 Cent and G-Unit, his debut, the documentary, went double platinum and put the West Coast back on the map. He had the bars, the beats, and the bravado. Back then, the game wasn't just another rapper. He was the heir to the West throne. But just like his name, the game's career turned into a real game of highs and lows. The beef with 50 blew up, splitting him from G-Unit and costing him industry allies. Lawsuits started creeping in, some from business partners, some from personal drama. And while he still dropped solid albums like Doctor's Advocate and Jesus Piece, the hits didn't hit like they used to. By the mid-2000s, his brand was more about controversy than consistency. And then came the Rainey judgment, the knockout punch. That $7 million debt became a cloud hanging over everything. Record deals got messy, his mansion flexes looked shaky, and every time he posted new jewelry, fans were in the comments like, "Ain't that Priscilla's chain now?" The joke became that every dollar he flashed was technically court property. Now here we are, 2025, and the game's story is less about platinum plaques and more about bankruptcy rumors. It's the classic hip-hop cautionary tale. Go from riches to rags when the lawsuits catch up, the label checks slow down, and the courts decide it's pay-up time. And for the game, it's even harsher because fans still remember when he was the loudest voice in West Coast rap. The fall just looks that much steeper, but while his career history makes the downfall dramatic, it's the fans who are really shaping this narrative right now. And depending on which timeline you scroll, they're either roasting him into oblivion or defending him as another artist chewed up by the system. The minute bankruptcy rumors hit the blogs, the internet turned the game's pain into primetime comedy. Twitter was flooded with memes. One viral edit showed him holding a "Will Rap for Rent" sign. Another had his "The Documentary" album cover photoshopped to read the bankruptcy. TikTok had people reenacting fake phone calls of the game begging 50 Cent for a loan, and Instagram comments under his posts got so ruthless he had to limit replies. But not everybody's laughing. On Team Roast, fans are saying this is karma. They point to years of beefing, flexing, and bragging about money, and now to them the tables have turned. Some are even dragging up old tracks where he bragged about riches, splicing them with news headlines about his mansion being seized. The vibe is, you talked big, now pay big. On the flip side, Team Defense is louder than you think. Plenty of fans are calling out how the system chews up artists, especially black rappers who came from nothing and made millions fast. They compare him to 50 Cent's bankruptcy, saying this could be a strategy to wipe the slate clean and come back stronger. Others argue that labels, lawsuits, and shady contracts take more from artists than fans realize, and the game is just the latest example. And then there's the middle ground, the fans who don't care about the legal details but just want new music. They're clowning him, sure, but also asking, when's the next album dropping? Because at the end of the day, the culture loves a comeback almost as much as it loves a downfall. That split between roasting and defending is what makes this story so sticky online. Because while some people are busy laughing at the game's financial L, others are asking the bigger question, what does this mean for his legacy? And that's where the real conversation starts to get serious. Here's where it gets heavy, because this isn't just about dollars, it's about legacy. The game built his whole career on being the savior of the West after Dre and Snoop. He had the streets, the hits, and the cosigns that stamped him as a legend. But in hip-hop, perception is everything, and the bankrupt rapper tag cuts deep. It flips his narrative from West Coast king to another cautionary tale, and that shift could erase years of respect if he doesn't bounce back strong. Think about it. Bankruptcy could lock up his assets, limit his touring, and freeze future deals. That means less music, fewer shows, and a reputation that's harder to rebuild. And in an era where younger rappers like Kendrick, Roddy Ricch, and even West Coast newcomers are dominating the scene, the game risks becoming a punchline instead of a pillar. But there's another angle. Some fans believe this could be his 50 Cent moment. Remember when 50 filed bankruptcy in 2015? Everyone laughed, but then he came back with power, liquor deals, and a stronger bag than ever. If the game plays it right, he could spin this low into a redemption arc. Reality TV deals, podcasts, memoirs. There are lanes he could still dominate if he owns the narrative instead of letting the courts define it. The bigger question is whether the culture will let him. Hip-hop is quick to forgive talent, but it's even quicker to roast weakness. If the game leans into his bankruptcy with transparency, maybe fans rally. If he keeps ducking and hiding assets, the narrative writes itself, broke, bitter, and stuck in the past. Either way, his next moves will decide how he's remembered. Is he a West Coast icon who survived the system, or a star who played too flashy and lost it all? That's the bigger stake hanging over every headline. So what happens next for the game? Well, a couple of paths are on the table. If the bankruptcy rumors are true, he could file and restructure his debt, buying himself time and maybe protecting what's left of his assets. That's the play chess, not checkers move, the same way 50 Cent flipped his bankruptcy into a comeback. On the other hand, if he's really out of money and the courts keep pressing, we could see more of his homes, cars, and royalties seized until Rainey's judgment is fully paid. Either way, the courts aren't letting him slide anymore. The hammer's already down. For fans, the bigger question isn't just about the money, it's about the man. Can the game still tour, drop albums, or will the broke rapper narrative follow him forever? And most importantly, can he turn this L into a redemption arc, or is this truly game over? But I want to hear from y'all. Do you think the game is really broke, or is this just another strategic move to dodge the system? Is this the end of his legacy or the start of a comeback story? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get into it. And hey, only 20% of y'all watching are subscribed, so hit that button, smash the bell, and stay tapped in because this story is far from finished.